Okay.
Future.
Why is everything chrome?
We're in the future. This is Utopia.
It's
We are
fun.
Utopia.
We are. Thanks, Travis.
Oh man, we're super stoked. We got the Travis Scott Utopia review coming up.
Yeah.
Been out for like 10 days now. We're a little behind the times. I've seen so many reviews come out on YouTube before
Really?
we've done
I mean,
ours, but
I'm not surprised. Yeah.
but that's all right. We're super stoked to get into that. We've got a special guest coming up that's going to be joining us with a lot of expertise on Cactus Jack, Travis Scott, and everything Utopia. Um, Before we do that, we're gonna dive into some new music, couple of tracks we've been listening to, like we usually do. Um, as far as like news, there's literally no news. I feel like we did hear rumor that the Kid Laroi is going to be dropping a little bit later this year. Um, Honestly, I don't know how I feel about that. I've liked a lot of his recent singles,
Yeah.
but I feel like every time I'm hyped for a Kid Laroi project, I'm just continually let down, and I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, there's one decent song on this thing, and I'm not very pleased with the rest of it.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know why, but I'm always excited to hear the Kid Laroi, mainly
Sure.
because of I feel like his good songs are really good
Oh yeah.
songs. Um, and to me, those songs that like I've downloaded and have had for now years, they'll pop up and I'll listen to the entire thing, sing my heart out, whatever it may be. Like they're great songs, and to me, they age well. I still listen to them, and even with what is the album called? Not Sober 3? Is that what his
It's called F Love 3, but it's got the song
Oh,
Not
yeah,
Sober
yeah,
on it.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So and that's one of my favorite songs
Oh yeah,
off.
with Polo G. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I've even though I don't know how a lot of people felt about it, but I don't think the best things.
Yeah.
Um, but there were like maybe two or three songs where I loved enough to where whatever, the album wasn't good, but at least I got three songs that I thoroughly enjoyed from him.
Sure.
So I
Sure.
do look forward, and that's a very rare case. I'm usually not like that with anyone, but I don't know. I really do like the Kid Laroi.
Yeah, I'm hoping he drops. There's a couple artists that I feel like we've been teased so much with new music, and then they kind of fall off the face
Yeah.
of the earth. And one of those artists is Khalid. I feel like he's dropped
Yeah.
so many singles over the past like year, and then so many features recently. And I'm
Yeah.
like, where's the next album, bro? Like, give me the full length stuff.
He's one where I'll get excited and I feel like he falls short.
Mm.
Um, I mean that hasn't happened recently. I don't
He had
remember
dropped
the
an album recently,
yeah,
though.
exactly. That's what I'm saying. Um, I I do love what he's been a part of, whether that's a single
Sure.
or features.
Yeah.
Um, I just feel like he's one of those artists to me where kind of like an Ian Dior or a 24K Golden,
Yeah.
where they have the potential to be the best in pop.
Right.
And I truly do think about that with Khalid, but he falls short
Mm.
every time.
Mm.
But I
Fair.
mean, then again, once again, hasn't dropped an album recent at all.
Right,
So
right. It's good. And I like the lane that he's in right now. I feel like it's his wheelhouse with
Yeah.
a lot of these features. So I'm hopeful. I don't know if he's dropping soon. That was just another artist that I thought of where I was like, he's been teasing so much music,
Yeah.
like dropping singles here and there. So, anyways, we kind of talked about the strike a couple weeks ago. I feel like that's negated a lot of music and or not music, movie and TV news though. Like
Yeah.
just release dates are pushed back, and that's
Yeah.
pretty much the extent of it. But yeah,
I
I mean,
mean, the most I've heard is they now have the cast for Fantastic Four. That
really, I heard it was
yeah.
rumors still.
Oh, I've heard that it's like if anything, it's like right there. Like
Oh, like they're close.
yeah,
They're
it's like
close to
about
narrowing
to
it.
yeah. But
Oh,
that's what I've heard.
interesting.
I could be wrong.
Well, we'll have to see about that. I'll have to see about that.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
unfamiliar.
I could like I said, I could be wrong.
Cool, cool.
But yeah,
Well, let's dive into some of this new music this week.
let's do it.
There was a fair amount I feel like that came out singles wise that I was stoked to hear.
Yeah.
Um, some that I was pretty disappointed in, and probably more than usual that I'll talk about that I was disappointed in. The first track that I listened to in new music, as far as singles go, was Doja Cat's Paint the
Yeah.
Town Red. And I have been wanting to love a Doja Cat song for so long. Like she has her cuts on her albums that I'm like, this is really good. Like I really enjoyed the song she did it with The Weeknd on her last album. I really enjoyed. a couple tracks off of the one before that.
Mhm.
But her features recently have really got me liking her music more
Yeah.
and wanting to enjoy songs more. I was kind of let down by Attention, and this was another one where I was like, she had so much potential, and there's moments on the song that I want to love. Like her flows at moments are great, her
Yeah.
vocals at moments are great. When she gets into that kind of raspy rap flow, where she's kind of sing rapping with this raspy vocal range, I think she kills it better than anybody that I've heard
Honestly,
in a long, long time. But she stays in that pocket for like 2 bars and then jumps into like this high pitched kind of squealy annoying sound that I'm like, yeah. I'm like, I don't really need to be hearing this right
Yeah,
now. You know what I
no.
mean?
Yeah.
So I was pretty let down by that one, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I'm hopeful that I know she's been teasing an album for a while, and I'm hopeful that it'll be better than the first 2 singles.
Yeah. I didn't like the topic of that song either. Like,
To be fair, I don't know if I've ever liked a Doja Cat topic.
well, yeah, but like more than usual. Like, I feel like why do you want to be that way? Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. That's just me as a person,
Didn't
as a human
resonate with
being.
you.
Yeah, like why?
That's fair.
Why?
That's fair.
But song wise, I agree. Just let down.
Yeah. Another song that I was pretty let down by is Make Up Your Mind by Corday. Wow, your reaction's coming in like I'm gonna be flabbergasted by your thoughts. But
That's crazy.
he's been dropping some of his best music of his career recently for me. Like 210s with Anderson .Paak was great. I love both of their performance on it. Doomsday is honestly one of the best songs that I've heard of the year to this day. His feature on the NF track, Careful, is one of his best features I've ever heard. This one just wasn't the move for me, to be honest. Like I listened through it and I was like, this is not good. Like I did not enjoy it at all. The flow wasn't there for me, but I think mostly it was his vocals. I felt like he was trying to rely on his vocals for a guy who does not make good vocal music to me.
Wow.
Yeah.
So that's actually one of the songs I chose to bring up. And man, do I not disagree with you more? Like that's great. I feel like before the podcast, there were a couple things that we've said where we disagreed very hardcore.
Sure.
But since the podcast, I feel like we've leveled out, we've balanced out pretty well. And so this is probably only like the second or third time where we have disagreed fully.
Vehemently.
Yeah. Like honestly, one of my favorite songs by Corday.
Interesting.
Because I thought his vocals were great.
Interesting.
Because I'm so used to him rapping.
Sure.
And he has his sound. When it comes to rap, he has his sound.
Yeah.
And I think hanging out with Anderson .Paak has led him to
unlock something,
experiment a little bit.
Sure.
So with him coming out singing now, let me say this first. The second verse was trash. I will say that. Okay. It made me uncomfortable. It wasn't good. Lyrical. Everything about the second verse was awful. The first verse in the chorus is beautiful. But I haven't heard Corday sing. I thought he did really well I mean, he could have done it before. I don't know his history or whatever, but for this being my first time hearing him sing, and to my knowledge of him not being a singer, vocals were solid. Sure. On top of that, I thought the chorus was great. It was catchy. I don't know. I was just shocked and pleasantly surprised with a different take on music for him. And driving, I listened to all the new music that I found, once again, all the way up here. And I was pretty stone faced. Like I just wanted to be home. Like I had a long weekend. I just wanted to be home and in my bed and whatever, listening through all the tracks. Then this one came on and I just gained all of this energy. I was bumping, I was vibing. I was like, hey, yeah. Like I was having the greatest time ever.
Oh boy.
So
I don't know what you're on, man. We gotta get you some better R&B singing rap
probably
music then.
Yeah, that might be it. I don't know, but then again, Corday is also one of my favorite.
That's fair.
That's fair. Artists. So
yeah, I think he's got the potential to be one of the best rappers. But the last track that I had that I made notes on was one that you sent me actually, and I had listened to it before, but was Realist by Easy
Oh
Mill and
yeah.
Eminem. And from my understanding, Easy Mill just got signed to Shady Records
Brand
pretty
new.
recently. Made some waves online, like just with a lot of what he's been doing.
Yeah.
I listened through some of his like other songs that he's had before being a Shady artist. And I wasn't super impressed by it. I was like, okay, I see the potential. I see why this may be attractive to people,
Right.
but it's not really doing it for me. I feel like there's other artists in his lane that are doing it better.
Fair.
And honestly, the first half of the song, I got that same vibe. I was like, the production's all right. He sounds okay, but like I've heard other artists in his lane do this better. Is
Yeah.
really what it came down to.
Absolutely.
And to feature Eminem on this song, like we're both big Eminem fans. Like
Yeah.
I think we'd both consider him one of our favorites. I think we'd both consider him one of the best rappers of all time.
Yeah.
Which I don't think is a hot take really for any hip hop fan. I think most people put him up there.
Right.
But at this point in his career, it would take a lot for me to get hyped when he drops something.
Yeah.
And that's not to say I'm like not going to listen to it and not like have an open mind and like, hey, maybe he'll drop something that I love. But it's just to the point where it's like this inconsistencies to the point where it's just like another release where I'm like, oh, cool. Like he dropped, let me listen to it. This is what I've been missing since 2013, really. Like what I consider to be, I mean, and he's had his moments on, Kamikaze and on Music to Be Murdered By, but like by and large, just
it's not the same.
Not attacking it the way that he used to with the modern edge that he needs to have relevant music right now. And I don't know why it took a Jack Harlow song of like It Can't Be, where Jack Harlow's like, roasting his own whiteness basically and saying like, yeah, okay, that's why I'm famous, you know what I mean? And like I wrote an article about that and like basically said like I love that Jack acknowledged that and just was like blunt about it, even if it's a little true for him. Like, the Jack Harlow appeal is the suburban, like college, white kid music. But like, I love that Eminem came out and fired back on all of those things with like relevant takes, honestly, with like relevancy in the music. And I don't deny that like Eminem unlocked a larger appeal and audience than other artists may have at his time. He incorporated a lot more rock influence. He definitely expanded kind of hip hop to a newer audience than maybe other artists were having at the time. But I loved kind of attacking it with this energy and this passion without like the trope that he kind of relies on at times recently of just like yelling to get his passion and aggression across, where in his past he hasn't really needed to do that, though he uses it at times. It's like lately all the time, whenever it's something that he's like passionate about, it's just yelling. You know what I mean? But like he didn't need to do that on this song. I love that he didn't. His flows were smooth. I like the lyricism, and I like that he was like saying something pertinent and relevant to his career. And I thought he just accented this song super, super well.
Yeah, I think like, basically just piggybacking, I felt like it was old Eminem, and that's not to like even disrespect him, because there are quite a few songs that I even like from, there's a couple off Revival, Kamikaze, and Music to Be Murdered By. Like, yes, I agree with what the majority say when it's lacking a lot, but I still found a couple. Anyways, this is the Eminem I grew up on. Maybe not exactly, but with the wordplay, you kind of actually have to listen and follow along with the lyrics to understand what he's really saying. The word choice is really good. You're right with the flow. The flow is great. And I think, I mean, obviously it's this kid's first, to my knowledge, I did not listen to his previous, but this is probably the biggest feature he's ever had.
Oh, 1,000%.
Easily.
It's most people's biggest feature they'll ever have in their career.
So obviously, like, the kid's going to get outshined. Even if it wasn't the best Eminem part.
Fair enough.
He's going to get outshined. And so, I mean, it honestly just helped the kid. I don't know his name, and I don't care to remember it right now. But it probably helped him profit more than anything than Eminem profiting. But I thought everything was on point with what he said. Me personally, I do think he brought in a way larger audience for the fact, not even just being white, But if you look at like records and sales, like outside of America, Eminem has done
Oh yeah.
numbers for hip hop.
Yeah.
So like to basically stand up and be like, yeah, I was a guest in the house, but I turned the house to a mansion. I was like,
Yeah.
that's crazy. Like you're right, but that's crazy.
Yeah.
One thing I don't understand is why does the game have so much beef against Eminem? I don't get why he keeps
Yeah.
attacking him.
Yeah.
So that
Honestly, I think it's just Machine Gun Kelly syndrome, to be honest. Like people saw how big MGK got from that.
yeah, they want to
I
try.
really think that it's just the clickbait
Right.
appeal. Like that's
Because
really
when
what it
was the
comes
last time
down to.
anyone even heard about the game or listened to the game? When was the last time the game was relevant?
El Chapo, dude. El Chapo banger. I'm not gonna lie to you. That song goes freaking hard. But to your point, fair enough. Fair
Yeah.
enough.
So I mean, I could very well see that it's clickbait.
Sure.
But yeah, no, solid song. Um, so the three that I have, one that we already talked about being Make Up Your Mind. The other two were Always Gonna Be by Dan and Shay. I know that's not for you.
I liked it better than the last
Okay.
one. I will say.
Okay.
Than the last single, I like this one better.
And I agree. I mean, I like Dan and Shay, but I feel like the last one that came out missed. It was a miss. This one I felt like it was very home felt, like just a vibe. I could listen to that in almost any scenario. Obviously like not hype and like not all the time, but if I'm driving most of the time,
Sure.
that's a great like driving or a background song or whatever it may be. A good sing-along song. So I really liked that. And it with two singles that have the exact same cover art, I'm now assuming it's an album.
Yeah.
So that's cool. The other one is Mustard by Jordan Ward and Black.
Yeah, I listened to that one as well.
I thought it was super cool. I don't know who Jordan Ward is, but I like the vocal. Um, I don't know. That high pitched singing, it's not even really like I don't want to call it high pitch. It's just a higher octave singing, I guess. Um, I like that kind of vibe if it's done correctly and not overused. So I don't know if that's a lot of his music or if that was for this song, but it was a great song. I loved his vocals. I thought the beat was really good. And then I think it complemented Black's vocals and flow really, really well. I think they complement each other very well. And I actually accidentally heard that earlier this weekend before even looking, but my brother played it in the car and I was like, oh, this is a vibe. Yeah. And then and then I was going through, I was like, oh hey, it's that song. I didn't realize that's brand new. So I re-listened, and so that's kind of how I feel.
Yeah,
so.
I thought it was a pretty solid song. I feel like I loved Since I Have a Lover so much that I was just a little let down by the Black feature.
Valid.
I feel like he just had a lot better moments recently,
Yeah.
and he has a lot better features in my opinion. But I do think it was pretty solid. I think that wraps up new music.
Okay,
reviews.
real quick, can we bring up the fact that one, Usher came back for a song, and two, that 21 ruined that song?
That whole song was pretty mid, bro. That.
But why was 21 on it? Because the vibe fit.
The Summer Walker feature wasn't bad. I'll give you that.
Like,
yeah, 21 was a weird compliment to the two of them. That's for sure. That's for sure.
That's all I had to say. I had to bring up.
Yeah. Well, we're gonna do. We're planning on doing a review of the new Mammoth album by Wolfgang Van Halen that just came out. That's gonna be next week, so we'll dive into that a little bit later. But a couple songs that I wanted to shout out that I've been coming back to a lot. We've been talking a couple days ago. I have been loving the Roots music lately, like jumping back into them. Super influential group, super great music. I love the live instrumentals that they incorporate so often. I think Black Thought, to me, I stand by the fact that even though he's getting a lot of his flowers now, I stand by the fact that I think he's the most underrated rapper of all time. Such a legend. But
I ended up downloading the song that you sent me.
Yeah,
it was really, really good.
He's got some great stuff. the song that I've been enjoying a lot is Double Trouble featuring Mos Def, off of the 1999 album Things Fall Apart. And I've just went through the whole album and have been loving a lot of it, but that was the song that I've just been really coming back to a lot the last few days. I also have been really enjoying this Save Your Tears remix with Ariana Grande by The Weeknd. I think their vocals are so beautiful together.
Yeah.
Like they are just the perfect counterparts in terms of R&B, trap, pop, sound.
Yeah.
So I love hearing them together. I think they both do great. And honestly, I think Ariana kind of outshines him on this song on that second half. The last one is a little bit older cut that I've been coming back to. And I've seen a lot of like videos of his intro to this at festivals and stuff. And like hearing the story behind it just makes it all the more enjoyable to me. And it's Neighbors by J. Cole. I think that song is just iconic. I love kind of the storytelling aspect that he has. It's a different sound than I feel like a lot of what I love about J. Cole is, but in a way that's really, really good. Kind of differing a lot from the off-season sound or 2014 Forest Hills Drive or his earlier stuff. Anyways, those are the three tracks I've had in rotation lately.
Yeah. So and I brought this song up before, but man, is it a whole new taste? And you sent me Demi Lovato's Heart Attack, but it's a rock version. The song's better. It's better than the original, 100%. I think the instrumental itself is crazy now.
Right.
Like, and I still love the original. Yeah. Like that is still one of my favorite guilty pleasure songs of all time. I love that song to pieces. How old is she? It doesn't matter. Her vocals are even better. I don't know how she hit some of the notes she hit. Yeah. But it was incredible. Like I found myself like jaw dropped, like, what the heck? Like, how did you do that?
Yeah.
It was incredible. I loved it. And I probably listened to it another 20 times that day after I heard it the first time. But I've been listening to that one a lot. And I wouldn't be surprised if that made it to like a list for end of the year.
Really?
Yeah, dude, I
think I love that her vocals are so suiting for that style of song in a rock context. I would love to hear more of that from her. And I know she's done some stuff with it recently. But I think in terms of rebranding for that style of sound, I love the idea of going back and re-recording those pop hits with that edge and just be like, this influence has been here all along. And this is how good I can do it and like get on board because we're going somewhere that like musically is different.
Hey,
and I'm
for it.
I'm with it. Yeah.
I love it. And it's crazy because a couple weeks ago, she had dropped a single that I was talking and like I brought it up on that episode or whatever.
Yeah.
But I didn't like it because of the topic. But like that's when I knew she could do rock very, very well. Like the vocals fit very well. And yeah, so I'm just glad that it wasn't like a one-time thing and like dang it, like I don't enjoy this song very much because of like what it's talking about. Sure. Like that's unfortunate. So to hear one of my favorite songs in a rock form now by her,
you're with it.
Oh, I'm for it. I can't wait for that entire project because it's a project, right? She's doing
there's a couple other singles on it. Cool for the summer and some of her other hits. But I'm excited to hear what she comes up with.
Yeah, it was amazing. The next song I've been listening to a lot is Jealous. The original is by Labyrinth. I've been listening to a cover by Landon Boyce. Yep, Landon Boyce. One of my friends showed me this cover a couple months back, and his vocals are just soothing, like it's beautiful. I like his take on it. It's very soothing, it's very relaxing to hear, and he has a very good range. Copyright. He he's able to reach notes. I mean, I don't know him, but he was able to reach notes that I was surprised, especially at the time. But yeah, solid song. And then the third would be Getting Jiggy With It by Will Smith. It's such a vibe. That might be my favorite Will Smith song. Not saying that there's a lot by Will Smith that's actually good, respectfully. But yeah, it's a great vibe,
Classic.
energetic.
Yeah.
Great summer song as we
100%.
are wrapping summer up. But
Yeah.
yeah, so those are my
Solid.
what I've been
I
listening to.
think I think that wraps up our new music
Yeah.
and what we've been listening to. So, I mean, maybe without further ado, we'll jump into this Utopia review.
See you in Utopia.
Yeah, welcome to the future. Bring out the cappuccinos.
Let's go golfing.
Woo. Yes.
A great success. Well, maybe.
Almost.
What up, Jeff?
Dude,
Let's
I
go.
missed the memo, bro. I need a pair of glasses. My goodness.
Do you have the hoodie on though?
I got on the Stussy hoodie, yeah.
Oh, okay.
My
Okay.
boss. I
It
know.
looked like the Utopia T logo that
That's
I've been
fire,
seeing
bro.
around.
No, dude, I did cop a vinyl though, and I'll kind of get
Did
into
you
that as we
really?
discuss and whatever. Yeah, I got the original, like, cause they're, he did the various like the 4 or 5 different covers. I just went with the one that's on like the digital album, like just the original cover.
Nice. That's sick.
Yeah, man.
Super cool. This is Jaden, by the way. I don't know if you guys, but
Jaden, what up, bro? You went to the J. Cole and Machine Gun Kelly, right? Yeah, yeah.
this is me and Asher were co-workers in the student housing.
Back in the day, bro. That was crazy.
All right. Well, we'll kick off with a quick intro and then we'll get into so that you can get some sleep and then go sling some home security tomorrow.
You're good, bro. I mean, yeah, no, I honestly like should be fine as long as it's not like in the AM type stuff. But yeah, no, we'll be good.
Cool. We won't be too long, I hope.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we are super stoked to have our second official guest of the Casual Genius podcast, the legend, the Cactus Jack connoisseur, the man who knows all about Cactus Jack records, the legendary Asher Swiss. Thanks for joining us, my brother.
Yeah, man. Hyped to be here.
Yeah, we are stoked to talk about Utopia now. It's been an album that we've all been looking forward to in the hip hop community for 5 years now, honestly, if not before Astroworld, he's been teasing this thing.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I saw like somewhere it was like 1,817 days since his last album or something, like the night before the album dropped. So it's been a while.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, crazy. I guess before we jump into the review a little bit, some background knowledge. I mean, obviously I just said Asher, huge fan of Travis. Would you say he's your favorite artist or just like one of them up there?
He's definitely up there. It's kind of interesting. I've always said that like my favorite music artist ever is The Weeknd.
Okay.
And obviously I was, very pleased that we got a second feature from him, opposed to just the K-pop single. But no, it's interesting because for a long time I said that Travis was number two. But then kind of like this hiatus that he took where he didn't put anything out for 5 years, it kind of like, you can only like listen to the stuff for so long.
Right.
But him kind of throwing out some new stuff definitely like stirs the pot and gets me thinking again. So he's definitely up there for one of my favorites. Yeah.
Super cool, super cool. For me, I've always loved a lot of Travis. I haven't been like a diehard fan, but I feel like I recognize the quality and enjoy it when it's there. And then J Mac, up until recently, was just like adamant it's trash. There's no good in it. Like I asked him before we listened to this, he said he hadn't listened to Astroworld for a couple years, and I was like, "Is there any positives you took out of it? Like, what can you name positive?" And he was like, "Honestly, nothing." And I was like, "What?" So he's re-listened to it and actually improved his score on it quite a bit now. But I think it was like a couple features and some singles he put out that really made you like, hey, he's not bad. Like I actually am getting the hype now.
The only thing that I ever really saw from Travis was his production. Like that's the only thing I really got from him. I can respect that he's right now he's probably the best producer in my opinion. That he always excels in that aspect of creating. But I was very stuck in my ways. I was an old school hip hop kind of guy. Like I didn't really care to listen to many new artists. But I think one, just being friends with you and then doing this podcast has brought in my music listening too. So now I can appreciate more of Travis.
So I think the point being like we're like we've got all the bases covered here,
Sure.
like
All the
fan,
different perspectives.
yeah, for sure. So I'm super
Absolutely.
kind of hear the conversation, what everybody thought of it, coming in with a little bit different perspectives throughout it. Usually what we do here is just kind of dive into a little bit of review, what we liked, what we didn't like, pros and cons kind of thing, some overall notes. And then once we wrap up, we'll give it a score on what we thought, and then kind of jump into our best, worst, and most underrated tracks that we found on the album.
Okay.
But I wanted to start by saying, like, I feel like there's been a lot of albums the past few years, especially that have been returns for artists, so to speak. Like we waited so long for Kendrick, we waited so long for a bunch of other artists to drop, Travis being one of them. And in my opinion, this was one of the few that I was like, this was worth the wait. And like, you know, when Eminem dropped Revival, however many years ago, it was kind of a, you know, quite a bit of a letdown. Kendrick's I respected a lot, but still wasn't like satisfied with the wait for that.
Yeah.
This was one of the ones where I was like, this was totally worth it, and this hasn't let me down, with my expectations still being pretty high about it.
Valid.
I mean, I could definitely see that for sure. And I think I think that puts like all the more pressure on the artist, right? When you're like sitting there for this 5 year wait and there's so much hype building on the album, and like you kind of like there's this inevitable wave of people who like are gonna say it's trash anyway because like, oh, we waited so long for this, and it kind of like makes it harder to uphold a standard. But no, I totally agree with you. Like I think he like came through with an amount of diversity that was needed throughout every track and whatever. Like it was really well done and worth the wait, kind of like you were saying.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. Before we kind of get into specifics, what's you guys' overall take on the album? You feeling like it's pretty good, a letdown? I mean, you just obviously told us worth the wait, but like, how's it sitting in your rotation compared to like other albums from him that you have in the past?
Oh, dude. I mean, so I didn't really get into Trav until I want to say like I mean right around like when Astroworld came out. I want to say like maybe a little bit after that. My buddy Carson Sanderson, shout out to him. He kind of like put me on to Travis a little bit. And you know, like I had my phases with his different albums or whatever, but no, I've really enjoyed this one a lot. You know, on the doors you can't listen to a ton of music, but when I do have the opportunity, like I honestly like this is one of them ones, and I'm very pleased with it. Like where I just like hit play on the first track, like I just go to Hyena and just hit play, and you know, however long I can listen, I listen. You know what I mean? So it's definitely been in the rotation for sure.
Cool, cool.
So
J-Mac?
for me, this is all I've really been listening to, just because of lately I try to get the best kind of perspective all the way around. I did that with Post Malone's album, and so I thought it'd only be fair to kind of do the same. So I listened to this one 4 times now. Obviously I had a couple of breaks in between, so I don't know if I'd say it's in rotation yet. I definitely did enjoy a couple of tracks enough to put them in rotation for later. Like if they were to come up, I definitely listen through, let it play, and vibe to them. But as of right now, I wouldn't say there's a rotation for
the album
for the album, right?
Yeah, fair enough, fair enough. I found myself really enjoying it, for the most part. Like I said, I think it was worth the wait 100%. I think in my mind, I know a lot of people consider Rodeo to be his best studio album, and I for sure see that perspective and understand it. For me, I think the album experience that I enjoy the most is Astroworld. And I think this one lived up to both of those albums for me. But I definitely think, like, just my personal taste, I have a little, I'd be tempted to give a little bit of an edge to those other 2 albums, being Rodeo and Astroworld. But if we were to jump into like some of the highlights that you found in the album, like what's some pros that you were going through listening to, some things that you noted?
So I mean, kind of what Jaden was saying earlier, like Travis's credit on production. So like for starters, just to give an idea, so I actually have it right here. I want to make sure that I get the exact numbers. Sorry, let me pull this up. Um, with Travis, his production credits per album. So his collab album with Quavo, Jack Huncho, he produced 0% of that. Birds in the Trap, he produced 7%. Days Before Rodeo, like an older mixtape, 16%. Astro World, about 30%. Owl Pharaoh, like super old tape, 92%. Rodeo, he did 100% of the production, and then on Utopia, 63. So like more than half the time he was responsible for the production. And like I said before, I was just really pleased with the diversity in the instrumentals. You get a lot of different songs that kind of like bring on different moods and things. You have, songs like Hyena, where you're just like getting these like super hard hitting drums and this very interesting beat with kind of like that sitar, like the Indian instrument, like kind of over the top of like the big drums, super, super nice. And then you have kind of like more like a mellow song, like a telekinesis, where it's like, you have SZA coming in with like super, super nice vocals, and it's like more mellow, but it's still powerful. Like, so in terms of like taking away like a pro, very, very diverse in the tracks, very, very well picked features as well. Also kind of seeing I feel like, again, kind of what Jaden was saying earlier, like the production and his sound is like really what propelled him to his status, I feel like. But people kind of forget that like he's not, Kendrick level or anything, but like he can spit though. Like on the second half of My Eyes, like he was going, you know what I mean? And if you go back to like the 2014 freshman freestyle or whatever, it's kind of like a similar thing, like just kind of like going back to his roots. So it like you got a good mix of new Trav, old Trav, like just very diverse, and like a good mix of everything. I feel like I think that was the big takeaway for me.
Yeah, for sure. I love the take that I've been seeing on the internet where people are saying like he brought out the best Trav from every era. Like
Mm-hmm.
a lot of people think Birds in the Trap is his worst, but like it still has its highlights, and they're like people are drawing connections between various tracks and saying like he's spitting like he did on the mixtapes and at points in Rodeo. He's bringing the melodic vocals that he had in Birds. He's bringing the like the vision and the experience that he brought to Astro World for everybody. And I totally agree with that. I think like the rapping is the first thing that like really caught my ear coming off of these like features where he hasn't really been doing that as much, or Astro World where he did that a little bit but not to the extent where he's like his flows are impeccable and he's writing these beats with like the precision that these top tier rappers are doing right now. I think it's like pretty obvious he's not the best lyricist. Like, if
Of
you're to compare
course.
to a Nas or a J. Cole or a Kendrick or
Mm-hmm.
whoever,
Yeah.
like just the flows and the rapping ability. For me, like it was kind of like the comparison that people were making a while ago. Like Jack Harlow really wasn't saying very much or saying really anything notable on the Jackman album that he put out, but they're like
Mm-hmm.
the spitting, like he can rap for sure. And I was like,
Sure.
okay, but Trav just did this 10 times better on this album. Like the spitting is so much better. I loved him kind of going back to those rap roots a little bit
Mm-hmm.
from earlier days for sure.
Yeah, I think like the basis of Travis, like something that I don't feel like we have to bring up anymore, is he's a fantastic producer. Like that's probably the biggest pro, and it probably will always be the biggest pro from him. The like what you were saying, I think the diversity is huge in this album. Especially because for me, just listening to Astro World and then coming back to Utopia, you can hear, I mean, at least for me, like I heard a lot of growth. It doesn't sound similar to a lot of tracks. Each track is very unique in its own way, whether that is production, feature, the way he spits. He's very melodic in this one, which I really appreciate. He even went with a lot of more simple beats, not like a whole lot, but there were like 2 or 3 tracks where it's not this extravagant kind of production.
Like
It's
modern jam. Yeah.
yeah, Modern Jam, I Know, two tracks that I really, really enjoyed. Um, but yeah, I think the diversity, just kind of showing off the skills that he does have. He's kind of proving to everyone, like, here's my entire skill set. This is my bag. I'm in it.
Yeah, 100%. I think the uniqueness of the production here in terms of like kind of you brought up, I can't remember what the Indian instrument that you noted was, but like that
The
instrument,
sitar. Yeah.
yeah, that instrumental like layering that he does, or there's the incorporation of like strings, violin sections over songs where like not a lot of people in the trap or the rage scene or like,
Yeah.
whatever, like genre, subgenre you want to try to box him into. He's just incorporated so much diversity into it, which I really, really liked. I also loved, like you both brought up the features on it. I thought the features were pretty good for the most part, but I love that it wasn't drowned in features like I feel like a lot of albums are nowadays. It was a Travis Scott album, and it didn't feel like, he was just like calling the shots and letting other people run his album, but it was like a Travis Scott album that all these features complemented.
Yeah.
Plus, I mean, like I totally agree with that, and I think also what I always appreciate about Travis, when he kind of like picks the features for his album, like unfortunately we're kind of in a spot in the industry, at least I feel like, where everyone has the same people, like Drake puts out an album and it's like, of course we got a Lil Durk feature and a Young Thug feature and a Future feature and a whoever feature and a whatever. Like the fact that we're getting features from like Tizo Touchdown and from Sampa and from SZA and from, he still has like the core like Future and Young Thug, and it's a given he's going to throw in a 21 Savage feature too. It's like, but he's like picking these interesting features, and it's kind of like making it, like we said, just like more unique, which I appreciate a lot.
Yeah, 100%. I think that Tizo touchdown feature has been one that I've just been coming back to and loving a ton. Like
Yeah.
that vocal melodic range that he finds himself in is like almost David Bowie reminiscent. And it was such a cool incorporation on this psychedelic rock track and even vibe on the album, which I thought was super, super cool. One other thing that I wanted to note about what I loved about it is this whole theme of utopia that he's been talking about. It's a mindset. It's wherever you are. You have that Drake bridge or like transition between songs where he's talking about like, this is just my hotel room, but like it's a mindset of utopia. And I love a lot of these songs. To me, it felt like they lacked song structure or like a recipe to make what we'd call quote unquote a radio hit or whatever. Like he wasn't necessarily trying to put out these songs that are going to be on pop radio, but it was like, I don't know, it felt like the lack of song structure added to me this feeling of like utopia being like a higher place or like a mindset above and beyond just like the basic, where everybody's stuck in, but like we can enjoy things and do things that are above and outside that box, which I thought was kind of an interesting incorporation for me that I really enjoyed.
Yeah.
Totally. I mean, like, and even like I don't know. Maybe I'm corny for saying this, but like, kind of how you mentioned, it's like it's not this like just stereotypical pop song, because like for me that's what K-pop was, and like I understand, because like Travis is, it goes without saying that like he's got his marketing like dialed. He's got the McDonald's deal, he's got the PlayStation deal, he's got the Jordan deal, he's got the whatever. He had like the Utopia briefcase going everywhere. Like he's got that dialed. And at least in my opinion, he kind of looked at this situation. He's like, hey, let's kind of like build one more hype wave and grab like Bad Bunny's massive fan base, The Weeknd's massive fan base, my fan base, and just throw together like a fun club song. Yeah. And I was so relieved when the rest of the album wasn't like that. I mean, I didn't think it ever was gonna be like that, but that's kind of how K-pop came across to me, is just kind of like, hey, let's get a hit on the radio. And I'm really glad that he kind of like stuck to a story or a theme instead of just trying to throw together radio hits,
Yeah, 100%. I had two last things that I wanted to say about like positives, and if you guys have any more, you can feel free to add on. For me, I felt like this album just confirmed to me something that had kind of already been building, and we've kind of seen this downfall a little bit just publicly in terms of Kanye West, but it's hard to deny like the artistic vision of the man, even on an album like Donda, where he's, creating this visceral soundscape, and then pairing that with like the album rollout and all these things. And Travis has for sure been learning from Ye, but like taking it in his own lane, making it his own. But for me, this album felt like a confirmation to me that Travis was going to be that dude going forward. Like in terms of artistic vision of putting it out an album, placing features very strategically, recruiting those good and diverse artists like you were talking about, a great album rollout, you know, like obviously we didn't get the Pyramids concert yet. Hopefully that happens. I think that'd be sick. But like all these things in terms of like marketing that you're talking about, to me, it feels like he's that guy going forward, like the next Kanye in terms of artistic vision for music. How do you guys feel about that take? Is that a little spicy, or do you feel like that's something that like is sitting pretty well with you after this album?
No, I agree fully. Like we were talking about it the other day when I was listening through Astro World, and yeah, no, I fully agree. I think it's the same person, only different. Like at this point, they both have very unique beats, and it shows how different both Ye and Travis are. But you could definitely tell how much Travis learned from Kanye, and like you said, just made it his own thing, stayed in his lane, and just became what he needed to become and what he wanted to become. Very two different people, very different production wise, like, but you can tell how similar they are too.
Yeah, no, for sure. I figured this was definitely gonna get brought up at some point because it was like all over the forefront of Twitter and Instagram and everything. But like everyone that I've really liked this comparison is that they say it's like Travis's Yeezus, right? And the interesting part is you kind of have half of the people who are like, yeah, exactly, he's just copying it, and then you have the people it's like, okay, but wait, he was responsible for a good chunk of the production on Yeezus. Like he worked on that project, and it's more like kind of like you were saying, he's taking pieces that he's like learned and influenced, and he's making it his own thing. And no, I completely agree. There's kind of like this nice parallel, and it's like it's in this spot where it's not like a photocopy, like, okay, dude, you're doing the exact same thing, but it's a nice little like spin-off. Like, that he did the Donda thing, he lived in the football stadium, and he like was recording the live streams, and everyone was like, what the hell's going on? And then Travis is like, trying to perform at the Pyramids, didn't work out. He's performing in like Rome at like the Circus Maximus. So like that was his, next option. And I wouldn't be surprised if like the rollout continues with like these kind of crazy pop-up locations. So kind of doing these like bold marketing moves, creativity moves, like you can definitely see a parallel. And yeah, I wholeheartedly agree with that, I think.
Yeah, I think the key like for this album that I really want to see going forward in terms of that rollout, kind of like you're mentioning, continuing that. Hopefully we get like some more of these crazy location concerts that he does for this album. But one thing that I was really or that I'm hoping that he continues to do, and that like, with the movie that he put out, I'm thinking there may be some of this, but like when The Weeknd put out Dawn FM, one of my favorite parts of that album rollout was how the music videos that were released like in the weeks following kind of added to that album experience. And I think that would be something sick for him to do going forward, like these music video rollouts, like album trailers, and just keep that wave going, because I'm still enjoying it. And like, I don't want to like fall off this high of the Utopia album when I feel like there's so much more to explore in that lane.
Right, 100%. I need to get around to actually like watching that movie. I tried to find a way to like pirate it or something before hopping on here, but I couldn't find access quite yet. But everyone I have talked to says that it just like adds that much more to, the album and the creativity. So
For sure, for sure. My last note was I know Travis has like had his good and bad moments vocally if we're talking like singing ability.
mhm.
A lot of his like just reviewers that I follow or critics that I read, one knock they have on Travis is that he can be very robotic at times, or like very like lack a lot of animation in his vocals. And at times I think that works out really, really well for him. But at times I do think that makes a weaker track if you don't have like other aspects that are livening it up.
Mhm.
But I thought he had some super good vocal singing performances where he's like singing into that auto tune. that kind of add these diverse moments between just the rap and just the boom bap of the trap to like hitting some mellower, softer spots where he's really like singing in these interesting vocal ranges that I'm not really super familiar with him doing on like a song to song basis.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, 100%. So, I, you know, I definitely have like seen that as well. Like the robotic thing that you were talking about, I kind of call it like the NAB syndrome, right? Like it's just like the same, it's the same over and over again. Like the most notable person who brings it up consistently, I can think of like an Anthony Fantano or something like that.
Yep.
But yeah, no, kind of like going back to what I was saying a second ago about like the Yeezus again. He, you have songs like Modern Jam where he's like got these like random like screams or the ad libs or like he's changing the way that he like sings the song. Like you were saying, he was actually when he was doing kind of like the rollout weeks, building up to the album, he was showing these different clips when he was in the studio recording the instrumentals and the vocals and everything. And he was obviously working a lot with Mike Dean on the production side of things, but he was working with Rick Rubin as well. And that actually kind of like got me really excited because I saw an older video with Rick Rubin when they were kind of like, I think they were talking about him doing work with Jay-Z or something like that. And he talks about, he's like, the audience comes last, and the reporter kind of gives him this weird look, and he's like, I don't understand what do you mean? They're literally the people who decide to listen to your stuff. And he's like, the audience only knows what they've heard before. Like that's all that they can base what they like off of. It's what they've heard before. So if you're confident in your ability to provide something that's brand new, like you were saying, something that you're not familiar, like outside of his wheelhouse, it makes it that much better when it hits. It's a little bit of a gamble, but it's like if you can hit on that and it's like, okay, not only is this amazing, but this is something that I haven't heard either in a long time or ever. It just makes it that much more impactful, I feel like. So I agree.
Yeah.
Sweet. That's like the main notes I had as far as like bonus, like benefits of the album, things that I thought he hit really, really well. Do you guys have anything you want to cover before like I jump into a couple thoughts that like maybe detracted from the album for me?
I'm cool.
Trying to think. No, I mean, no, I think we've touched all the bases. Yeah.
Cool. Like I said, I really enjoyed this album. I thought it was very, very good. Just from a critical perspective, I do have things that I noticed or noted that I was like, may have detracted from the album a little bit for me. And we kind of talked about the comparisons to Yeezus. I've seen like or listened and heard a lot of comparisons to various moments on Utopia, kind of relating to other points in Kanye, like 808s. Or even other artists that Trav is inspired by. He kind of interpolates the Kendrick Lamar King's Dead vocal flow at one point on the album. And to me, this wasn't like a major detractor, just from like a critical perspective. It did detract a little bit from like the idea of this futuristic utopia when we're getting like these Yeezus 808 moments that were like 10 years ago or so. And I don't think like it didn't detract from the album being good to me. It just kind of lowered it on a critical perspective that like, we're already here, whatever 10 years ago with Kanye, and now we're kind of in this moment still. Do you want to cut this real quick?
I don't think anybody sees that, so we might be good.
So yeah, I mean, I don't know what you guys thought of that. Do you feel like those moments where it's kind of a little bit derivative of other artists or just maybe heavily inspired, do you feel like that detracts from the originality of the album at all, or am I just kind of tripping on that one?
For me, I don't think it really detracts from anything, just because I don't know, I don't usually think that way. Like I can tell sometimes if somebody's heavily inspired. This being one of those albums, you can easily tell he's been with Kanye, but like that's all things that we've said before. But I don't know. I usually hear it for the artists themselves and what they've created. There will be times not that I found in this album where I hear too much of some other artists, but I feel like this one, it just at least to me, it felt like this is Travis Scott. Like, yes, he
Sure.
has his implications of other artists. You hear different inspirations, but to me, this is Travis.
Yeah, no, I mean, just kind of going back to what I kind of mentioned earlier is like what people got to remember is that the reason why you hear a lot of these things, like, you know, I mean, let's kind of go with like the main one, right? It's like you got Circus Maximus and then you've got Black Skinhead, right? Like exact like drum loops very, very similar, pacing similar as well. And I kind of just like go back to the fact it's like, okay, but like he did that though. Like he produced like he was on Yeezus. It wasn't Kanye doing it and then Travis being like, okay, let me take some notes and do that exact same thing. It's like not like he was there, like he was doing work on it as well. And so kind of in that regard, it's like I don't feel like Kanye necessarily owns that like style of like, you know, the outrageous drums or like the scream vocals or whatever. And kind of like Jaden was saying, I think he diversified enough and made it his own enough and just kind of gave like little tastes of like, oh hey, remember this sound. And I think he had a good balance.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. I think just as a fan of his, I would have liked to see kind of those moments that I was talking about because I do enjoy him and honestly like I love Black Skinhead a lot. And so hearing that I was like, oh, this is dope. Like I love hearing Travis over this beat. I love the Sway Lee intro on it. The Weeknd adds a great diverse moment to the hook there in the middle. So like I enjoyed all those moments. I just think as a listen going through kind of this concept album of a utopian future, I would have enjoyed like a little bit more of a push of the boundaries in terms of the originality and hear something that he hadn't done before or that artists like that he'd worked with hadn't done before. But for me, the other thing about this album as I was going through it, which again, I really enjoyed it a lot. I did feel like for me, the highs on Rodeo and on Astroworld were a little bit higher than the highs on this album. How do you guys feel about like, you know, the like best songs on this album compared to some of his other works? You just went through Astroworld again, so like you can kind of compare that. How do you guys feel about like where the best moments on this sit versus his best moments otherwise?
I mean, so kind of starting with like I guess a good like kind of right across the road comparison is like Sicko Mode to Meltdown, right? I feel like there especially was like, you know, it's like, okay, let's try to create like Sicko Mode 2. Basically, it's like, hey, let's have the beat switch again. Let's have Drake do the thing again. Like, let's try to do that. And, you know, to an extent, it's like when you reach a certain point with like the quality of a track, like you can't recreate it. Like it's very clear that he was trying to do that again, and you kind of just come up short regardless. Um, but I kind of like I don't know. Like it just sounds like they're all kind of like at a similar level for me because like you have a song like say Skeletons off of Astroworld. There's not really another Travis song that sounds like Skeletons off of Astroworld. And I feel like many Travis fans would put that in their top 5 Travis tracks ever.
Sure.
You go to Rodeo 90210, like arguably his best song, right? Like same thing. But then you like jump over to Utopia and you have a song like My Eyes. Like I don't think there is another song that's really like that one, where it like starts like really slow and it's very melodic and whatever, and then there's like this super smooth transition into the second half, and there's like this pickup of this like little snare beat going, and then he just like starts like rapping like the Rents do, bro. Like he's just going. So even though I feel like nostalgia plays a big part, you know, and that's why a lot of people are going to sit there and it's like, oh, dude, like it could never be as good as this. It's like, I mean, in some cases, yeah, that's true, but like when this one has a minute to marinate, I feel like we'll see a lot more realistic, like, okay, this one is as good as this, or this one is at the same level or a little bit better than this, you know, that kind of a thing.
Sure.
Yeah. I think it really depends on what kind of a mood you're in. I feel like Astro World for a majority of it is super hype. It's very upbeat. It's very going hard. It's in your face, like kind of an album. This one I feel like is a little bit more melodic and futuristic feel. Obviously, it does have its hype moments where it gives off the same feel. And so for me, I would say it's in that aspect, it's kind of hard to compare and contrast. If you want to talk about just hits in general, so I don't know any other discography from Travis Scott. I know Astroworld and now I know Utopia. That's it. That's what I'm basing my knowledge off of.
Hey, but now you have an incentive to go back.
Yeah, I will be going back. But so I lost everything that I just was thinking of.
Yeah,
But,
no,
yeah.
I think it is a little bit apples to oranges. Just from my listening experience, I feel like we like for me it was a little bit of like I do think nostalgia plays a big part in that. Like, you know, your experience listening to an album under different conditions is gonna, you know, resonate with you differently, and then over time that perspective is gonna change. You're gonna find new songs that you enjoy more, or like songs are gonna outweigh each other. Just for me, I felt like those highs on Astroworld and on Rodeo as well, with like some of his best tracks of all time, with 90210 or the, you know, very famous Antidote. Pray for Love even is a song that I really enjoy. So I feel like those highs just were a little bit higher on those past albums. But I do think this album tended to be a little more consistent for me in terms of like maybe what I would consider the lows on it. Like, I don't think that I mean, the one that first comes to my mind is like Birds in the Trap. And we were talking, Asher, like my favorite tracks on Birds in the Trap are just like widely considered as worst of all time. So I don't know what I'm tripping on, but like I don't find it that bad. But I do see a lot of those moments on that album and here and there on other albums where I feel like it isn't his best work. And then on this one, I feel like those moments weren't really there as much. Like, I think, you know, a lot of people are considering K-pop to be the weakest part, and it feels like really unfitting for sure. But even that one, I don't feel like is truly like a bad, terrible song. It just isn't his best work. It didn't really fit on the album, and it wasn't a great Trav song. But that's kind of where I'm feeling with those kinds of thoughts on that side of things.
Yeah, no, for sure. No, going back to K-pop, I mean, I truly believe that song was a marketing ploy. Like, I do not think he was trying. I think he was like, all right, let's get like three dudes that I'm cool with that have big fan bases. Let's throw it together. Let's get the word out. Like, I think that's what that song's whole purpose was.
Right, for sure. And it felt, I mean, I kind of said this to both of you. To me, it felt like a Bad Bunny song that he was just like, I don't really feel like finishing this right now. And then Trav and The Weeknd were just like, oh, let's throw a couple like features on either end and just call it good and put it out. And everyone's nuts. So that was it for sure felt like a little bit of a marketing ploy, but like honestly, for a lot of Bad Bunny music, like I felt like it was one of his better songs, just incorporating that diversity. But it just wasn't like a great move for the album for me. It did feel like a bit of a marketing ploy.
I kind of wish he, like, I don't know, maybe like other people say different. I kind of wish he just like left that as a single. You know what I mean? Like, I kind of wish he just like put that out and then had the album be 18 songs, because I mean that's still plenty, you know.
For sure. All right. So good. Kind of on that note though, I feel like the thing that, like, I don't think the lows were as low as some of his other stuff, but I did feel like this album wasn't without its songs that just weren't as good as the best songs on the album. And we'll get into like what we consider the worst. Obviously, I think K-pop's up there. I just didn't enjoy the Topia Twins song. I know it's a Crazy 21 feature. Parasail for me, I get its place in the album, but I didn't enjoy it that much. And the other one for me, I actually really enjoyed the song. I just thought the sample could have been toned down a little bit, was God's Country. I just thought like that whoever was singing on the sample, it just went on a little too loud for too long. That was like really the only knock that I found on it though, is I just didn't feel like there was 19 perfect songs on it. I felt like there were some that just dropped a tier in terms of quality, though I think they're like, even the worst song on Utopia is better than like a lot of some artists' best songs that they put out this year. So I don't know. How do you guys feel about that take?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think when you put out an album that's, I mean, over 15 songs, let alone 19, you know, to go 100% on all of them is like next to impossible, you know. I mean, Donda was so many songs, and you can find quite a few that aren't great. But no, I definitely agree. You know, there's always a song you're gonna run into that's just kind of like meh. And I kind of feel the same way. Like I don't really have any other knocks on the album. I think the theme was really nice. I think, like we mentioned earlier, the diversity, production was great. Feature choices were really good, very well placed. Lengths of each song. Yeah, no, I mean, aside from the couple songs that were just kind of like okay or a little less than okay, like, I mean, that's just kind of, how it goes.
For sure, for sure. Um, I know I'm gonna get flamed by this. Though I don't know if this person's fans are going to be as bad on the internet as Taylor Swift fans have been, or like I've heard some crazy stuff about Playboy Cardi fans, so I'm not even going to say anything about that song. But I will not be convinced that this Drake feature is good, man. I will not. I will not stand by it. And I know it's better than what he's done recently, but I still don't stand by like the hype. The fact that it's his third most trending song on Apple Music right now is crazy to me. I will not stand by that and be okay with it.
Yeah, it is what it is, man. Drake's fan base, I mean, he still holds the record. Like, I think so. Travis went out and did 480,000 for the first week. And I mean, that's just absurd. Like, I think I saw somewhere like his daily streams for the first 4 days were more streams than any other hip hop artist's first day. Like, his fourth day had like 60 million streams or something like that. And that was more than any other artist's first day. And to put it in perspective, Certified Lover Boy holds the record with like 685,000 first week. You know what I mean? So like it's just like the fan base is big, they're two big names, the beat is hype, it's Sicko Mode Volume 2. For people who kind of just want to turn some shit on and just go on autopilot, it's like, it's fire, bro. Yeah, that's just how it is.
I I loved his flow. I'll say that. Well, that's just me. I enjoyed that flow. I don't think it was a good song. I didn't like his feature. I just thought the flow was nice, and I think it complemented the production and Travis's part pretty well. But like lyrically, I've heard better from Drake. But I do bounce my head to it.
Interesting.
That's what I mean. I don't have a real issue with it. Like I don't think it's a bad song. Like I don't even think it's bottom three on the album. But like it's definitely not, you got a lot of people, it's like, and the best song on Utopia, of course, is Meltdown. I'm like, no, not even close. Not even close. I'm like, no.
Oh man, while we're on features though, I did have a couple more features that I wanted to shout out, and one that I wanted to dump on. We both said like Rob 49. First of all, like who? And not really, because I know he's been on songs, but like that I didn't like that feature very much. I didn't think, like, I thought the vibe was okay. Like I didn't mind kind of the more aggressive tone, but I just think there would have been better pairings for that song. Anyways, that was a feature I didn't love, but
I'm a little surprised he didn't just like get Young Boy.
right.
Like I heard the first like couple seconds and I was like, okay, Young Boy feature, and then I was like, wait, never mind. Like I don't know. But he has his reasons, I guess.
A stupid reason.
Yeah.
Raw 49 is no. That's a no. No.
Bad move. Oh man.
Yeah.
Features though, like honestly, the feature I come back to that has just been hyping me up a ton is that Tizo touchdown on Modern Jam. I think that complements it so well. James Blake, I thought, had a couple points where he hit really well. I love when he does stuff with like Bon Iver or Tame Impala, James Blake, just to kind of incorporate some of that diverse psychedelic rock sound, but they blend so well in the hip hop and trap as well. 21, I thought, brought a couple good verses. I know people aren't loving his Till Further Notice as much. I didn't mind it. I thought it was pretty good. And then honestly, like I guess, what do you guys think of the Beyonce feature? I found myself thinking that it was pretty good, but it felt like a Beyonce song that just was on Utopia to me.
So that was one that I was going to bring up, because I think, like, note wise, I think that track has, like, I wrote out the most. I love the idea of it. I don't think it was executed properly. I think there were too many times where I was like, okay, wait, what's going on? Like, there's a lot of times where you'll hear Beyonce and she's doing good, and then you'll hear Travis and I don't think he did the best on that one, but even then, like, whatever. But then they kind of like come together at the exact same time, and I don't know what either of them are saying or anything, and it just feels like an off balance mixture of vocals. Like, to me, I don't think their vocals clash very well. I think it very well could, and I loved the idea of both of them coming together to do a song. um Especially hearing other melodic tracks from Travis, it's very capable and very doable. I just think it wasn't executed properly, because it's the same thing with SZA. Like, they mesh very well together. Her vocals with his melodic flow, like, are really, really good, and I think they complement each other very, very well. So I know Travis can do it very well, and obviously Beyonce is Beyonce. No, Rihanna's better. But it, I just think it missed when it could have been a lot better. But I don't
No,
hate
I
them.
right. No, I agree with that. I've seen a lot of people saying that, and I think that's just the best way to put it. Like a lot of, just missed potential, just like opportunity that was like, I mean, they did what they did and it wasn't terrible, but like it could have been a lot better than it was. Like
Yeah.
just simple as that. And with the 21 feature that you were kind of talking about, I personally, I don't know about everybody else. I like props to 21 for just pumping a ton of music out. Like he's got the album with Drake, and he had like, I swear to God, like 5 or 6 features on the Heroes and Villains Metro Boomin album. Like he's been everywhere. And I mean, like I can appreciate that. Maybe it's kind of just like the like overplayed aspect, or just like kind of like my brain is numb to this point of the 21 features going around. But dude, me personally, I don't know what your guys' take on it is. I already have my tickets locked down for September 8th. I'm a big Cardi guy. I am. And I that feature personally, like I was sitting there in the kitchen and I'm like getting ready to like make my dinner or whatever. And I had 4 separate people text me, and they're like, "Hey, like just get ready for this track." Because I started listening later than everybody else. And they're like, get ready for this one. Like you're really gonna like this one. And I was like, okay, I didn't really know what to expect. And it kind of jumps in, and it's like this sounds like a final boss, like Mega Man level, like the beat, like the instrumental, and I love it. Like it's awesome. And Travis is kind of going, and I'm not knowing what to expect. And then it kind of like transitions in, and I hear like his ad lib, like the vampire ad lib, and I like lost it, dude. I was so hyped. But really, really pleased with the kind of like deep voice future thing, like he was doing, kind of like switching up his tone and like how he like presented the vocals. I guess I heard a snippet or two on social media of him doing that, and I thought it was just going to be another thing that was like a throwaway. It was just like, oh, this could be cool, but it wasn't going to appear. But yeah, no, I was really like pleasantly surprised, I guess you could say, by that one. So I think that, as well as like the Tizo touchdown or SZA feature, those are probably my top 3. But like, I don't know, the element of like me not expecting a Cardi feature and then it playing out the way it did on the beat that it did, like that was probably my favorite feature on the album, to tell you the truth.
Before I let you two step into the ring and duke this song out, I will jump in and say I like I see the appeal of Cardi, and I do enjoy a fair amount of his stuff. I understand like why his last couple albums have had the influence they have, but I really do like that new musical sound from him. I would love to hear like some more kind of incorporation of that personally. But I know you've got a fair amount to say about this track, so let's fight.
Respectfully, Playboy Cardi's one of the worst artists I've ever heard in my life.
No.
Now, I will say, because of being on this podcast, I do always respect artists for their own creations, because that is what they love. That is, their work, and I won't discredit that. Obviously he has a huge fan base, so obviously there are people that love his work. So to that I give the utmost respect, and I can just say he's not for me whatsoever. I grew up on very lyrical artists. I mean, up till probably a couple years ago, like when I was saying stuck in my old ways, like all that. So before even broadening like my entire music range, I was just all about the lyricism, the punchline, and that's still my favorite kind of hip hop. But Cardi B is not Cardi. What the heck? Playboy Cardi, my fault. Another trash art.
Wow.
He's just not somebody I can get behind. This was actually my worst song. There's the list of best, worst, and underrated
Spicy.
for me.
Fair.
Least favorite song. I mean, there's another one, that being Topia Twins. Rob 49 ruined that song for me. But yeah, and nobody can change my mind. I cannot stand Playboy Cardi.
I mean, it's like it's a fair position. Like I feel like it's kind of like I haven't really met anybody who's like in between, who's like, oh dude, like I kind of just like I'm just like neutral. Like you either like him a lot or you don't like him at all. And I definitely have like I have respect for like for the lyrical side of hip hop. I used to be kind of like an old head as well, a little bit. Um, but I don't know. I kind of like as I've listened more and more and kind of like tried to expand what I appreciate, or like the kind of like subgenres within hip hop that I enjoy the most. I found the two values that I appreciate the most is number one, the instrumental, like the production, like the actual like how the song sounds. Like if you were to take the artist out, like how does just the instrumental sound? And two, actually like the uniqueness and sound of the artist's voice, not necessarily what they're saying or kind of like how they're saying it or whatever, but just like genuinely the sound. Like again, like Big Cactus Jack guy, I love Don Tolliver. It's a very strong, unique, weird, nasally sounding voice that like has this strange like attraction of like this is like really different, and I like how this sounds. And you know, obviously there's like you know the whole like mumble rap narrative. Like there's a ton of people that you could kind of like you know people call Cardi clones, right? But I like for whatever reason, him specifically and how he's kind of like unveiled his discography and the influence from like um Dial It and Whole Lot of Red, like both of those albums came out and everyone was kind of like like not feeling it, and then it grew on people very quickly, and then you had the people who were like the Cardi clones, like the people who kind of showed up later and tried to do a similar thing. Dude, I remember listening to Whole Lot of Red like on Christmas Eve and being like, dude, I waited years for this. Like I am so disappointed right now. But you know, and that album actually kind of changed my perspective on how I listen to albums going forward. Like I you know, I never ever off of first listen judge an album. Like I have to let it kind of like marinate. I have to listen to it a couple more times, make sure I'm not missing any pieces. If I went on autopilot for a section of a song, whatever that may be. So, you know, I definitely get your point, and like I get why a lot of people don't like him. But for me personally, it's like number one, kind of like the rage style instrumentals and beats and production that he pioneered with Filthy. Like, you know, him and like he kind of put Filthy on the map with Whole Lot of Red. And you know, you got a lot of people kind of copying that, like Trippy Red did a bunch of that stuff. You got Sofago, another Cactus Jack artist, you know, kind of doing a similar thing. So the sound of the instrumentals and also like kind of just the character he is, like he's just kind of like a recluse, like super unique sounding voice, like strange, like I mean, poor Nardwar can't even get an interview with the guy. You know what I mean? Like he's this kind of mysterious character, and I don't know, I like it a lot.
He's the real vampire. That's for sure. That's big.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think like you're saying, I do for sure see the reason for such a diehard following for Cardi. And I do feel like every once in a while we get these artists that kind of stand out to define what the next few years of rap or hip hop are going to sound like. And I think just throughout the last few years of his career, he's really kind of setting the standard for what these younger artists are going to be making going forward. Just in my eyes, I do feel like that's the direction that it's going with all these Cardi clones, like you're saying. Honestly, Trav was one of those guys a few years back where I felt like he was setting the standard for what hip hop was going to kind of sound like in the mainstream going forward. And then you've obviously got guys like Drake and Ye and, you know, Eminem and whoever, as you keep going back, that are kind of setting that standard. But I do feel like Cardi's one of those guys for sure that's defining the sound of like this next wave of hip hop that we're getting for sure. You know, you can feel as that with that however you want, but that's the truth. I feel like I've kind of dominated with a lot of my thoughts. That's really like the main points that I had. The last thing that I'll say before you guys can like jump in with, you know, whatever else you want to incorporate. For me, just like a final thought that I wrote down about this one as I went through it quite a few times was that it felt like a really, really great Travis Scott album, like an album that I thoroughly enjoyed. And honestly, since maybe Rodeo, the best Travis Scott album I've heard. But for me, the experience of listening to the album in terms of an album experience where you're kind of getting immersed in a universe or a world that he's created, it just failed to measure up a little bit to Astroworld. And I do think a lot of that was nostalgia, just like going back in the first album experience I had with it. But for me, Astroworld was just so immersive, like feeling like you're living this experience that he's creating. And I do feel like I get that a little bit with Utopia as well. But anyways, I feel like he stood out a lot more on this record as opposed to where on Astroworld, a lot of the features or the beats maybe were up to me more. But this was like the Travis album, which I was super stoked about. So anyways, that's kind of my final thoughts. Yeah. Feel free, like either one of you jump in with whatever you got thinking.
One of the and this is just personal preference, but to me it kind of took away from the album is the super long intros. For one, I understand the appeal to like kind of emerging slowly into like a track, and like I get that. For me, that's just I just don't really enjoy that. But that's really just, like I said, personal. Like that's just to me, not even saying it really takes away from the album, just something I like when a song is kind of quick to the point, and then every once in a while you have a song that's like, I don't know, he had like 2 5-minute songs or something like that, and they're cool, they're great. Like you get this entire little story within just this song. You get a full experience when it's a longer song. But me personally, I like a 2.5 minute song. The intro is probably like, I don't know, 5 to 10 seconds max. Like that's really it. So I don't know how y'all feel about the intros or anything like that, but that was kind of my feel for that.
I think it had its moments where it did feel like it took a minute to get going. And honestly, Del Resto is one of those tracks that immediately comes to mind where it's like it felt like there was so much building and so much tension, even like throughout everybody's feature. And like even Parasail is another one like that, where it almost to me felt like an extended kind of interlude as you're like transitioning through different parts of the album for me. But anyways, I kind of feel that for sure. But I think as an album experience, for me, it doesn't really detract just listening top to bottom through it, because you're getting that full length kind of album experience. But yeah,
valid.
I think what you kind of run into with the lengthier tracks also is like, being that he's doing the majority of the production and he probably went through like so many throwaway instrumentals. It's like, okay, are we going to keep this one? We're going to get rid of this one. I think the part that I did appreciate about how the tracks were a little bit longer is you had like 3, 4, 5 tracks on there where it's like notable beat switches where like the instrumental changes entirely. Even on songs like Sirens, which unfortunately is going to be overshadowed by Meltdown because that's just the way that the tracks were placed. Like, you know, you kind of go through and then there's like this little kind of like repetitive ad lib thing, kind of like similar to even like a Night's transition, like Frank Ocean, and then it like transitions to the second half of the instrumental and it's like, holy cow, it's a whole new instrumental. And I think that's probably a big reason why he kept the songs as long as he did, because like he wanted everyone to get the full feel of the production on every track and as much as he possibly could. Because I'm sure there were hundreds, thousands, like however many of just the instrumentals that he did have to get rid of.
Right. And maybe that's because I listened to it 4 times almost consecutively, where I'm like, okay, like I understand.
Right,
I'm like,
definitely,
the song so I can actually review the song.
for sure.
But yeah, I do think it only helps, especially like your first listening experience, or if you love it that much to where you're like, all right, like, you know what, it's been a minute since I listened to the whole thing, play start to finish. Then in that aspect, I also understand the appeal to that. So
Yeah, I think like the only, well, I guess like the last, like the main kind of takeaway that I found really interesting is it's like, he first said something about this album, like, I mean, before 2020, like, he like put out an Instagram post, and like since then it's like everyone knew it was going to be titled Utopia, and like the textbook definition for Utopia is like, a perfect place. And Ryder, you were kind of talking about earlier, it's like, he's kind of making it this like state of mind you're in, like Utopia is wherever you are. But I kind of want to take it like a step further, and like it was really interesting to me how it kind of felt like, at least with kind of these like eerie instrumentals to start, like especially on songs like God's Country, like kind of these almost like again just like eerie strings on Thank God and other songs, like it kind of felt like this reverse, almost like it was like, supposed to be titled Utopia, but it's kind of like this darker, like inverted utopia, if you will. And he kind of is like touching on like darker stuff, like on the song My Eyes. We kind of talked about how he doesn't really say much, and not a lot of people come to a Travis album for lyrical depth, and that's just, kind of how he is. But like you actually kind of like look through the lyrics on My Eyes, and he's talking about like references to Kylie Jenner, and that's like why like he did the interview, and he talks about how her eyes are yellow and green, and that's why he says the yellow and green drip from your eyes. And then he talks about the Astrofest tragedy, and like, what he would do if he was in the crowd, and like, it's kind of like this darker feel to it. And it's like, you're supposed to be in, Utopia, the perfect destination, but he kind of like puts a spin on it. And I kind of really liked how it wasn't straightforward. Like he took like this kind of unorthodox approach to it, I guess. The theme, I liked it.
Yeah, I know you had quite a few notes. Do you have anything else you wanna jump in with?
the main thing is like, well, another one of the main things is there were a couple songs where I felt like the song just stopped when I felt like there could be more to it. It was just kind of an abrupt ending. And the one that comes to mind, if I'm correct, is Modern Jam, where it just kind of boom, done. Next track. And like I was like, oh, I feel like there could have been like so much more. Maybe not even so much more, but there were a couple where I was just like, oh, I thought there was gonna be like a little bit more to the track. I feel like it only would have helped it. Not saying that it was bad or anything like that, just it kind of threw me off, threw me for a loop when it just boom, done. And then I'm now on to the next track. So
Yeah, the one that keeps coming to my mind, because I like want to love it so much, and there's so many aspects I love, but I do feel like it fell short, like it just lacked that full potential. Is Del Resto's another one of those songs that I feel like is like that, where it's like it felt like it was building to this, it had so much tension to come to this like peak climactic moment in the album, and it just felt like that song particularly didn't hit that, and then kind of just like transitioned into the next song, kind of like you're saying.
Yeah.
Sure.
Was there anything else?
I do feel like kind of like you were talking about, Asher, with kind of the utopian twist. I will agree that like I loved the not so straightforward aspect of it, because I think that adds to kind of the enigma of the album a little bit. Like, it's so individual, and there's so much nuance to the concept of utopia that like, and obviously the main reference to utopia that we get in the album is the Drake interlude little conversation that he has. But it really is such a unique, nuanced idea and concept. And so I think, like you're saying, that adds to the mystery of the album and kind of the overall experience of like finding your own utopia. And we haven't done album or podcast merch, but I was just thinking, like, what if we got like customizable t-shirts that was like Utopia is, and you put your own thing, like Utopia is Jimmy John's, or like Chuck E. Cheese.
Jimmy John's Utopia is crazy.
Yeah. Like, I don't know if we get sued for like, stealing the title, but like maybe we'll do a collab with him at some point, or like, I don't know, that was just something I thought of.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. Any other thoughts that you guys had before we want to jump into these highlighted tracks that we picked out?
I'm ready.
I honestly I think the last thing is just like again, feature choices were fantastic. I kind of hope for just like a couple more songs, maybe on a deluxe or something, where like there are a few more, because you get like great features, but there's always like the hope. It's like, oh dude, I wish, like, my favorite song on Astroworld has always been Can't Say. And so I'm like waiting for the Don Toliver feature on Utopia, and it doesn't come. And I'm like, okay, I wish there was one. I understand why he didn't put one, but I wish there was one. So, that, and I haven't heard him and Sofe go on a song together yet. That hasn't happened yet. So I don't know. Couple just like features would be good. Baby Keem too, like another Trav and Baby Keem track, like just something.
Yeah, 100%. I'm with that for sure. We were kind of talking before the album, like, what are some of these crazy features that he might bring out, or that would be sick if he brings out? One that I think could go hard in the right context is a Trav and a Lil Wayne cut. I think with both of them on the right kind of psych rock trap,
that could be crazy
song, I think they would go so hard together.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm with you. I think like a Baby Keem feature. I'm a big Do-Rag Activity bumper. Like, I think that's hard. I'd love to hear them. Obviously, Don Toliver, whenever he's with, Trav, they cook something up that's super nice. So I'm with that 100%. Yeah, you said that's all you got. You're ready for tracks. All right. Best song. What do you guys got? What's standing out to you as the best song on the album?
So I had two. I couldn't really decide. For a while, probably for the first 3 listens through, it was only this one. But then listening this last time, I had to add the second. So my favorites, I Know. I think it was beautifully like melodical. I don't know about some of his earlier stuff, but to me, I haven't heard that from Travis. So I said that the flow was also solid. To me, the beat was perfect. It was very simple, and I like when an artist or a producer is able to go from something so beautiful and like this huge production work, but also can make beauty out of something so simple. And so to me, that was I Know, but I also really liked Thank God. Kind of that, I mean, to me, it's same kind of feel, just a simple beat. I liked the kids choir like in the background. We were talking about how Post kind of overused a choir kind of feel,
Sure.
and so he did it, I don't know how many times, but very few times. And so I recognized that, and I was able to appreciate the limited choir sound to this. So those were my two I really enjoyed.
Cool.
Yeah, so best songs, kind of the same thing. I had 2 of them that were tied up. So my best songs are, first of all, Hyena. I feel like it kicks off the album in a very, very strong way. Sets the tone for like those heavy drums with the sitar over the top of it, plus like the actual siren samples. Like there's parts of the songs where like you can hear like kind of a tornado siren just like crescendo and then like diminuendo real quick, which is really, really nice. And it's got like this kind of chaotic yet controlled flow from him, just over this like super just like heavy thick beat. And then the other one is My Eyes, because I mean, again, like it's kind of like the best of everything you can get. Like it starts out extremely mellow, very sing-songy, kind of beautiful production, beautiful instrumental, whatnot. Starts to pick up with that little like snare beat, just like tapping over and over again. And then again, he just like transitions in to this like the intensity is rising, and he just like, I mean, like the dude like hardly breathes. Like he just keeps going and going and going. And you know, contrary to what we were kind of talking about earlier, like he's talking about stuff. You know what I mean? Like he's not just saying, I got a bi girl on a bicycle
Best of club.
poking like the Eiffel. You know
Uh,
what I mean? Like he's actually like he's talking about the Astrofest. He's talking about Kylie Jenner. He's talking about his kid. Like he's doing all of that. And that one just like really impressed me. So those are my two best songs on there.
For sure, for sure. I also loved Hyena. I think for sure in his last two albums, he's proven to me that he knows how to make the perfect intro to an album. Like Stargazing again was one of my favorite tracks on Astroworld, and then like I was like, okay, there's no way an intro can like compare to that one. And then he came in with this one; it hit just as hard for me. So that one was in running for me. The Future and SZA cut Telekinesis was another one that I really enjoyed.
Very good.
I honestly had a hard time narrowing it down because there was quite a few that I really enjoyed. But to me, I found my favorite song being Schizo with Young Thug. I think there's
Very
like
good one.
3 beat switches in that one. They both
Yep.
switch those like 3-4 times each. The Young Thug like feature, I think it's an older feature if I've heard correctly that he recorded quite a few years ago. But like
Yeah.
where he's like rapping in this flow where he's like almost out of breath in between every syllable. It's
Yeah.
just like it went so nuts for me. I love the catchiness of the chorus paired with like those hard rap moments and the uniqueness of the beat. So that was what I put as my favorite. What do you guys feel like is the worst song on the album here? I mean, you said Fiend. Is it still Fiend?
Yeah, it's Fiend and Utopia twins.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm taking I'm taking K-pop, and I don't really want to just leave it as K-pop because I mean, like, I feel like that's, you know, the take that everybody has. I personally, maybe I'll get some backlash for this, dude. Kid Cudi doesn't resonate super huge with me as he does for a lot of other people. I think Love was. I understand what Travis was trying to do, and I also understand like the heavy influence. I mean, he literally like his artist name is like half of it is because of Kid Cudi. And you know, I still do hope that we get the Scots album. Like they're capable of making good songs. Like the song The Scots, like it's a good song. But I think Love was just like, I don't know. It was kind of like it was trying to create the intensity that he did in a lot of other tracks, but like I don't think he did it well. And I don't know. Maybe it's just the fact that I'm not like a huge Cudi guy, but that song didn't really impress me as much.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Like you, I feel like K-pop for me was the obvious answer. It just felt so unfitting on the album, and honestly, I didn't really hate it as a song. It wasn't a great trap song. It wasn't a great song for Utopia. But like looking outside of that, I also went with Topia Twins. Honestly, like even the I think it's the chorus, but like when Trav starts out the song and he's like on a jet ski, like it didn't ride for me. The Rob 49 feature was also not my favorite. But if I was looking outside of that, I thought Parasail was a little oversaturated as far as the auto tune goes, and I know
That's
that's
true.
it just felt like
They cooked Young Lean's vocals, bro. They cooked them.
it was so saturated. It just felt like I was listening to like I don't know what I was listening to. Like, if you were to bury someone underwater, that where the water was auto tuned, that's what the song sounded like. But let's jump into the most underrated one before we wrap up here. I feel like this is going to be pretty interesting. What do you got for your most underrated?
I actually have Love. I liked it. Like I I really enjoyed the Kid Cudi part. Like that to me was a shock that Kid Cudi was even on the album. Like I don't know like
Sure.
anything else other than it was cool. Like there were a couple parts where I felt like lines were a little mumbled, and I'm not huge on mumble. There are a couple songs or a couple artists where to me I'm like, okay, like whatever, like I still really enjoy it, and that's kind of where that fell for me. Just a couple lines where I felt were a little mumbled, but I can look past that because I really enjoyed the song.
My underrated is definitely gonna go with um First of all, Sirens, very, very beautiful choir intro, kind of like Kanye-esque with the Nsuko Luendo sample. It keeps like the beginning intensity again, just kind of like a chaotic beat that's like super, super just like deep and heavy, and you can just kind of like feel it. It has a great outro, and I'm not even talking about like the Drake sample where he's, talking to the girl in the hotel room. Just like you can tell that Mike Dean like had some work with it. Like kind of like this synth that kind of like builds after a second and it just like keeps getting higher, like a really, really good outro there. And I mean, reason it's gonna be underrated is just because Meltdown's right after it, and everyone's gonna be like Drake, Drake, Drake. So that's one.
And then two, also, I want to say, Thank God, I think is another one that might just kind of get lost in the mix. But again, the beat switching that he kind of did to present these various instrumentals that he's like trying to cram in as many as he can, it wasn't sloppy. Like he actually like he put them all in there like very neat and tidy, and it was very well done. And for me, that's like actually my favorite beat switch on the album is when it's kind of like he's going into it and it's, sounds the way it does. And then it like builds super high and the drums get crazy. And then it like gets like a little bit more, like the quality gets higher in terms of the audio, like it tones down a little bit. And then like the violins, like the strings come in and he just like starts rapping again. Like I like thoroughly enjoy that track. And I think between Hyena and a couple of the other ones, I think that's going to go overlooked as well, unfortunately.
Yeah, fair, for sure. For sure. I like both of those picks. For me, the one I also picked was Love with Kid Cudi. I for sure see where you're coming from with it, being one of the lower down songs on the album. For me, I really like the chorus that Trav provided. I felt like it was just a perfect upbeat kind of hype moment. It's far from the best song on the album for me. But like I was looking before this and it's the least trending of any song on the album. And I was like, the disrespect on that is a little crazy. So I feel like it needed to be a little more, it deserves a little more love. It does. We got to wrap up here in a second, but real quick, what are you guys giving this album out of 10? What's your score for it?
I got
what did you say?
8.
Yeah, no, that's not bad. I was gonna say like in between an 8 and a 9, like probably like an 8.5, 8.8, something like that.
Yeah, I'm sitting with an 8.5 as well. I think it was super well executed, but just a couple moments that I felt like could have stood out a little bit more. You know what I mean?
Yeah, sure, 100%.
Well, I think that's going to wrap up for us today. Asher, we appreciate you being here with us, bro. You brought the Travis Scott knowledge that we needed. Thanks so much, man.
Absolutely, bro. Yeah, it was a good time.
All right. We'll catch you later, boss.
All right, dog. I'll see you.
All right. Well, we've done it. Utopia has been achieved.
It is a mindset we have learned.
We are in the state of utopia. I will only be listening to Travis Scott for the rest of my life. Apparently, that is utopia. But yeah, we're coming with new episodes every Monday, like we usually do.
Yeah.
We're up doing stuff on the socials.
All of them. We're on
pretty much wherever you get your social media. We're on, including X.
Yeah. X.
Not Threads, because I hear it's dead.
Threads is basically gone.
Threads is over. Threads is Twitter, but worse, I've been told.
Yeah,
I don't have either. So.
Threads wanted to be Twitter so bad, and then Elon was like, "Goodbye." And like,
I'm done. Goodbye. Wherever you get your social media, check us out on there. Coming with some new content ideas soon. To keep you guys updated on everything. Check us out wherever you get your podcasts. Be sure to tune in next week. Planning a very special Barbie episode. Let's put another shrimp on the Barbie. Along with a review of Wolfgang Van Halen's new record with his I don't know whether to call him Mammoth or Wolfgang Van Halen. His name's Wolfgang Van Halen, but his artist name is Mammoth WVH. So I don't know what. Anyways, we're gonna review his new album, Mammoth 2. super exciting conversation with special guest coming up on that one as well, is our plan right now.
Yeah.
And we'll catch you guys next week.
Yeah.